In this lesson, we'll tackle a Piedmont Blues example in open E Vestapol tuning, inspired by something along the lines of Police Dog Blues by Blind Blake and maybe Statesboro Blues by Blind Willie McTell. Let's check it out so we know where we're going. Premium members have access to the extended cut live that's happening the day this lesson is published, where we're going to go deeper into the material. Plus, members have access to additional materials like downloadable PDF and Guitar Pro tab files, along with the interactive tab player. Plus, members have access to the entire library of premium lessons. If you're a member, thank you. And you can access the lesson materials by looking for TB397. And if you're not already a premium member, you can find out how to do that at the link in the description. And now let's get on with the lesson. Before we get rolling, we got to talk about the tuning. What is Vestapol tuning? Well, it's really just the relationship, the intervals that the strings are tuned to. So in this case, we're in Vestapol E, so open E tuning, it's also called. But Vestapol refers more to the relationship of the pitches and not necessarily to a specific key. So you could be playing in Vestapol and be playing in open D, or you could be playing in Vestapol and open E, or really any key. Vestapol refers to the fact that this sixth string is tuned to the root. In our case, that's E, and then the fifth string is tuned a fifth above that. In our case, that's B. The fourth string is tuned to an E as well, so back to the root, really an octave. And the third string is tuned to the major third, in our case, a G sharp. And then finally, the last two strings are tuned to a B, that's a fifth above the root, and then an E, which is the root again. Again, there's some octaves thrown in there. To recap, I've got root, fifth, root, third, fifth, and root. Now that we've changed our tuning, most of our familiar chord shapes just won't work if we're coming from standard tuning, that is. So let's take a look at the chord shapes that we're going to use in this example. Our first chord shape is really just cheating. It's the open six strings, right? We're going to work around that as our one chord for the most part. Our four chord in the key of E is A, and we've got a really interesting voicing of an A chord that we're going to play here with our bass on the lowest note of the chord, that is, on the second fret of the fifth string. And what's interesting about that is that's not an A note. Remember, we've tuned our fifth string. Some people call it the A string. That's what it's tuned to in standard tuning. We've tuned that up to B, so B comes up a step to C sharp. That's the major third of an A chord. So it works when we go to our four chord. It sounds really interesting. The rest of this chord is open fourth string. We bring the G sharp. Remember, this is tuned to G sharp up to A there. So there's our A. We got to do something about that B. It's a neat note, right? It sounds pretty cool, but we want to put that finger, the ring finger, down on the second fret of the second string and get a C sharp happening. And then we can get the open first string, the E, on top. So that's a good voicing to use in this tuning for your four chord, in this case, A. We've got another interesting voicing happening when we move into our five chord, B. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that this fifth string is tuned to B. That's our root note of our B chord. Next up, I'm going to move up from E to F sharp on the fourth string at the second fret. Remember, that string has been tuned up, so your F sharp in standard is here, right? We drop it down a step now to compensate for the fact that the string's been tuned up a step, and we're at the second fret for our F sharp. So B, F sharp, and then there's a B as well. And the similar thing happening here. Your B's normally here in standard, but we drop that down to the third fret, and we get a B on the third fret, third string. And then we can play the 4th fret of the 2nd string to get our D sharp, which is the 3rd of our B chord, and then we can play an A, and we're going to use that by playing the 5th fret of the 1st string, and that gets us into the B7 sounds. Really cool. And another thing that we can do, and we're going to do it in the part, is drop that down to the 2nd fret. So it pays to have a bar at the 2nd fret. That way, when we do drop down, we hear that F sharp on top, playing between B7 and B. I love this stumbling kind of feeling that the intro part gives us. Let's take a look at that. The timing in this intro can be tricky because we stumble into the downbeat with this Blind Blake-esque thumb roll. Right? We start before the beat on the 6th string and drag the thumb pick through to the open 5th string, so that is a strong downbeat, the open 5th string. And of course you can do this without the thumb pick, but if you want it to really pop and stand out and sound really nice and loud, the thumb pick is a really nice addition here. And we answer that stumble with the 1st fret on the 3rd string and then the 2nd string. And keep that shape in mind because we're going to really move that up the neck here as we progress through the intro. So the first part, we move that up a half step, this little shape here, which was on the 1st and 2nd frets, up now to the 2nd and 3rd frets, and then we're going to do that but kind of climb without the bass in between on the next part. Let's take a look at it. Here we're going all the way up to the 4th fret and the 3rd fret, right? Hear how that second time around we don't incorporate the bass and it really lets us climb the fretboard. All right, let's take a look at what's happening in the arrangement. I'm going to play it through slowly once we start out working in our 1 chord, which is basically the open strings with a couple of cool moves thrown in for good measure. And then we move into our 4 chord with some picking, and then back with our 1 chord with something a little different there. And then finally, we wrap things up by moving into our 5 chord. So let's take a listen to it. I'll play it through slowly so that you can really see what's going on the fretboard and with the picking. Here we go. If you learned something from this lesson, please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. It sure helps me out a lot. And if you want to go deeper, remember, you can become a premium member by joining right over here at that link, and you'll have access to tons of other additional material and lessons. Hope to see you inside BGI soon. Until then, practice smart and play on.